More than 500,000 people in the United States have officially died from COVID. However, President Joe Biden's top medical advisor, Anthony Fauci, said the true toll is likely higher.
We've been saying, and the CDC has been saying all along, that it is very likely that we're undercounting. You know, the model says that it's a significant amount, as you mentioned correctly, 900,000. That's a bit more than I would have thought the undercounting was. But, you know, sometimes the models are right on line. Sometimes they're a bit off. But I think there's no doubt, Chuck, that we are and have been undercounting.
Let's get some more now from Bloomberg Deputy Managing Editor Ros Krasny. Ros, it's interesting to me because there are doctors and scientists who say actually the deaths have been overcounted, because if you go in the hospital dying of cancer and you happen to catch COVID, it's counted as a COVID death, not as a cancer death. So why is Dr. Fauci weighing in on this at all? What's the urgency here?
That's quite right, Kathleen. I mean, there's the idea that people can die with COVID rather than of COVID, and how you slice that is a question for a lot of epidemiologists for years to come. But Dr. Fauci was ripping off a study from the University of Washington. They looked at excess deaths, excess mortality in the U.S. and the world, basically for the last 14 or 15 months, and came up with the number that U.S. deaths are really 57% higher of COVID than reported, and for the world as a whole, basically double the official toll. So, you know, to the extent that they've run these numbers through their epidemiological studies, you know, I think there's a lot of validity to them. And we know that countries like Mexico recently re-reported their excess deaths way higher than they had been. And one thing that the University of Washington said is that they specifically mentioned Japan, Egypt, and some Central Asian countries, saying that those countries' coronavirus deaths could be 10 times their officially reported numbers. So it really is quite sobering. I mean, at some point, 3 million, 6 million, 7 million, they're just massive numbers, and we've reflected on that many times over the past few months.
In the meantime, though, what are we seeing when it comes to the latest vaccination data, not just in the US, but also progress being made in the UK? Well,
Heidi, so interesting to see just 2 COVID deaths reported in the UK today, and that's a really remarkable turnaround, and it's a country that's really pushed ahead quickly with its vaccinations, over 53% there having had at least the first shot and more than a third fully vaccinated. And as you said in your earlier segment, Boris Johnson opening the UK up to more international travel. And that's really the message that officials here in the US and in the UK are driving home. They want to drive the vaccination message home, getting through to groups that have been resistant, and to that extent they seem to be having some success, although in the US, as we know, the pace of vaccinations is slowing.
Well, Ros, I just have to ask about India. The news every week seems to go from bad to worst. What's the latest that we're hearing now?
Well, New Delhi has extended its lockdown for another week and adopted stricter controls this time to control this wave of COVID. And they were going to open up somewhat on Monday, but that is now extended through May 17. One thing that Anthony Fauci said today is that he's spoken to Indian officials recently and just talked about the need to break the cycle. And we've talked again in recent weeks about the Indian economy, how hard it really is to close it down. That's not an easy thing. So it looks like they're taking that somewhat under advisement. Of course, many countries have come to the fore with aid, and you know about the vaccine materials that the U.S. will be sending, but it really seems like something needs to be done to break that very, very vicious cycle.